All right, let's get into some prediction time. So, interesting article came about, and this was on Giants Wire, but this is part of the NFL Wire, which is the USA Today's version of news for each individual NFL team. They do a wire for each one. They do a Giants Wire, a Commanders Wire, a Eagles Wire, all the wires. They have more episodes of The Wire than HBO. That's what it's down to at this point here. Oh, I did it.
You did it.
So they made a list basically of one player that each team should sign. And it was kind of interesting because the one for the Giants didn't shock me. Didn't shock me at all. But what did shock me is there's two Giants players, at least on the Giants last year, that made the cut for other teams to sign. I'm like, we suck, and yet you have two teams that you're saying should take players from us. It's kind of like a shocking moment there for us.
Makes you think.
So, what they said is first off, I'll tell you point blank who they said we should sign, and that's Trey Smith of the Chiefs, the guard. We talked about him last week. Again, not a guy that I want. I think he's too expensive. I think I'd rather spend the money on a couple players, get some decent players across the board, as opposed to getting one really good player and then having poop next to him on either side. And him going, "What's that smell?"
Oh, it's just the players around me. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what the write-up said. They said the Giants are obviously in the hunt for the next quarterback, but what good is that if they can't protect him? Although their offensive line took a small step forward in 2024, issues along the interior created problems down the stretch and served as a reminder that the decade-long offensive line rebuild is far from complete. Trey Smith may not be a flashy signing, but he's precisely what the New York Giant offense needs: a consistent, above-average interior lineman who can run block, and pass protect. His addition would allow Jermaine Illuminor to remain at right tackle, preventing the need for a secondary offensive line signing. If a bidding war for Smith gets out of hand, Will Freeze could be a solid secondary option. That's by Dan Belton of Giants Wire. So first off, I got to disagree with Dan Belton here. No offense to him. He usually writes some pretty good stuff, which just we can respectfully disagree. I don't think it took a small step forward in 2024, the Giants offensive line. We've talked on the show before the offensive line had all the injuries, especially the first, peg was the big one with Andrew Thomas. This offensive line was playing better, guys. I'm sorry, it was. There's no, and I'm not saying it was the Cowboys line of a couple of years ago or the Eagles line of now, which I hate to give credit to two division rivals, but let's be honest, they've had amazing offensive lines in recent time. But we were at least an average offensive line up until those injuries. And that is a big leap forward from where we've been the last, few years here. You can say just years in general, not even a few years. But, I don't disagree with them. We need an interior offensive lineman. I just disagree that we need to go and spend that kind of money to do so. Will Freeze also scares me because the last time we got the guard out of Indianapolis, it was obviously a man who did not work out very well in Mark Lewinsky and had a very similar resume to Will Freeze as well, as far as ability-wise. So I think that's an option I will just leave and extend the loop and stay on there all I can and just avoid like the plague there. But again, I'm not going to sit there and spend $20, $22, $23 million on a guard this offseason when I need a quarterback, I need a corner, I need a defensive lineman, I need all kinds of moves at that point there. Now, can you get me a good solid one for like $10 million, $15 million? Okay, sign me up. And that's probably more the Will Freeze market, but again, not him specifically, but somebody of that caliber I'd be okay with.
Yeah.
I just don't want to overspend like we did last year. Looking at you, John Runyon Jr. Looking at you. He tried. I mean, he was also hurt. Who knows? Maybe he comes back healthy, next year. But we called it out in the beginning with John Runyon Jr. Overpaid for him. Literally so bad in run blocking that Green Bay literally took him out of the lineup at times. We think that's a guy worth, 5 figures a year. Thanks, Joe Shane.
You were just that desperate. Wait to the last minute.
Desperation is not just a clone by Calvin Klein. Now, of the guys that we have that they suggested going elsewhere, which, by the way, let's be honest, their agents and everybody else are probably telling them to go elsewhere too. Like, get out of New York. It's going to kill your career. We're like such a depressive show at this point. The
At least that I can.
The Atlanta Falcons were suggested to take edge rusher Azeez Ojulari. They said the Falcons enter yet another offseason with question marks surrounding their pass rush. Matthew Judon likely won't return after underwhelming 2024 campaign, and it's time to find some new blood. The team can't address everything in the draft, so Atlanta should look to sign free agent linebacker Azeez Ojulari. The former second-round pick has 22 sacks and 37 QB hits in 46 career games. Last season, Ojulari finished with more sacks, 6, than Judon, 5.5. The 24-year-old Georgia native would be a good fit in Atlanta without breaking the bank. And that's Matt Urban of the Falcons Wire gave that right up there. And I got to say, again, he's not wrong. Those guys who, listen or watch our show on a regular basis know that me and Rob are big fans of Ojulari, but with an asterisk on it. We are big fans of him in a role, not as a star that you're counting on.
For 30% of the snaps to 50% of the snaps.
And it sounds more like that write-up, like they want to count on him, and that's an issue.
Yeah.
You can't count Ojulari. First off, he's not great against the run. And second off, he is injury-prone, like you said. So, like I said, he's a great guy to have as a rotational piece. He's a great guy to bring down on third downs and obvious passing downs. Like, you want to do a 2-minute drill and pop him in the whole entire time for that, 100% down for it, understand it, there for it. But he's not an every down edge rusher. And I just think, and I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again, because that way when I'm right, I can say I'm right. I'm so modest. But I feel like someone's going to overpay for him.
Most likely.
And they're going to look at it later, like when that happens, like, oh, why didn't the Giants just hold Ojulari down? When he starts the season good, wherever he goes, and then when he gets hurt, we're like, that's why.
Yeah, when every announcer on Fox is going to be like, Ojulari, Giants gave up this guy? You're going to bring it Barkley
He's this year's Xavier McKinney. Like,
yeah.
Like, that's what's going to happen. Like, he will start off like that when he's healthy. But people ignore the fact that he's not good against the run, and people ignore the fact that he's bound to get hurt at some point because he always does. I don't know why people can't just admit that kind of stuff, but it's just life, I guess.
He just says he stayed the healthiest and played the most amount of downs when he was not the starter.
Besides his rookie year. That was his one lucky year he had. I will give him that. Which, by the way, he had a better year than Chase Young that year. Just saying. He's got talent. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to seem disrespectful. The guy's got talent. He's just not an every down back. Every down edge rusher. That's all it is to it. He's not a guy that you sit there and throw out there every single play. Like you said, 30, 50%.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that's the most amount of downs you've seen him through, like, actually play through the year. But that's, once again, he wasn't and then every down guy, and that's why. Yeah,
exactly. Second one they have is for the Kansas City Chiefs. And you go, who would the team that's won 2 out of the last 3 and been to the 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls? Who would they need? Safety / linebacker Isaiah Simmons. First off, let me just stop this before I read this. No one needs Isaiah Simmons. Let me be the first to assure you this. And he's not a bad a depth piece to have because he does a lot of things good. But he doesn't do anything well. There's a difference. He does a lot of things average to slightly below average. He doesn't do anything amazing. He doesn't do anything above average. It's just what he is.
Swiss Army knife that they don't know which attachment to unfold and use.
It's like an antique Swiss Army knife that hasn't had the blade sharpened in quite a while. Yeah.
Your grandfather's Swiss Army knife from World War II.
That he took scuba diving. It's gotten salty and rusty and had trouble opening it. Anyways, we're being rude now. We're being rude.
Yeah.
So rude.
Salty.
The write-up said the Chiefs' biggest need is at the left tackle position, but the addition of a player like Isaiah Simmons could prove to be a game changer for the Kansas City's defense next season. Pause that. Have they ever seen Isaiah Simmons play? I'm sorry. Game changer. That's not a term I would often use for Isaiah Simmons. Again, I feel like I'm being disrespectful to Simmons, and like I said, he is a decent depth piece to have because he does play a lot of things, but game changer?
No. I mean, these are the words that we got fed when we got him. He's a game changer. He's a great guy. Like, you hit it on the head. Like, he can play a lot of different positions.
Yeah.
And, it's
like calling Bud Light an exquisite ale
Yeah. Gross.
Steve Spagnuolo's linebackers only came away with one interception this season and consistently failed to disrupt the intermediate passing game in key situations. Pause that for a second here.
Have you seen the Giants?
How many interceptions did the Giants have? They didn't have a single player with more than one interception. But he's going to solve the interception problem for the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Anyway, by signing Simmons, the Chiefs gained a playmaker with elite ball skills and range to compensate for the potential loss of standout linebacker Nick Bolton in free agency. That's coming from John Dillon of the Chiefs Wire, who was currently trained how to go ahead and scout players by Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, dude. Like, seriously. This would be a great write-up for, like, you know, Bobby Okereke. Like, I feel like there's still these guys who just have this, like, man crush on Isaiah Simmons because of what he did in Clemson. He's not that player.
Yeah,
like,
he did not take it to the big leagues.
Yeah, like, wow. So, yeah, I'll say questionable move on getting Trey Smith because of the cost. Don't want Will Freeze because I want nothing to do with the Colts guard after what happened to Glowinski. Azeez Ojulari, good spot for him to go, Atlanta, if we're going to lose him. But if they overuse him, they'll be disappointed. And then Isaiah Simmons is not a unicorn. He's like that. Is it a Chinese? Was it a Chinese zoo that went ahead and put a dog with a mane around it and tried to pretend it's a lion?
That's hysterical.
I want to say it was. I will find out the story here real quick here. So dog pretended to be lion in a zoo. Oh yeah, it's bad. I remember this thing. It looked nothing like a lion too. I'm like, wait, what?
Well, that's a dog. It's not even a cat.
Here we go. Yep, here it is. Oh, it's a YouTube video. I can't look up a YouTube video. That would not be. Give me. Okay, here we go. This is as of 2013, so I'm dating myself here. It's 11 years old. This is in Hong Kong, it says. But then it says a zoo in China. So I'm not going to get involved in that whole discrepancy because I know that's a big issue. We're not going to get in politics here, people. But it says a zoo in China has angered visitors by trying to pass off a hairy dog as a lion. A visitor told the state-run Beijing Young Youth Daily that she discovered the fraud when visiting a zoo. As they approached the cage marked African lion, they were shocked to hear the beast emit a bark. It was a Tibetan Mastiff. The quote says, "The zoo is absolutely trying to cheat us. They're trying to disguise dogs as lions." Like, what the hell? Who does this? Oh, my God.
That's fantastic.
Oh, my God. They said there was also a dog in the wolf cage and a white fox on display in the leopard enclosure. Oh, my gosh. I can't. Anyway, let's get off of that. Oh my gosh. I totally forgot how bad that story was until I started looking at the article. Anyway, let's back to football here. We're here for football. Are you ready for some football, people?
Are you ready for some football?
By the way, that was a trivia question for me, my trivia team last week. They had it was Hank Williams doing that song, the original version, All My Rowdy Friends. And I'm like, that sounds like Hank. And I know it's not Country Boy Can't Survive. So we're going to go All My Rowdy Friends. It's only 2 songs I know by Hank Williams Jr., sorry. I was right. Woohoo. Bonus points. Got myself a nice little growler of beer there for that. I do like beer.
Beer.
If you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please,